and viewers now moving away from the news and getting into our conversation this morning. Well, of course, we know we're in the final week before elections on Monday, the 28th of April. And, there's a lot happening on the ground, a lot being said from all the political parties that are in the race. Of course, we know we have 9 contestants in the Tobago West seat and about 5 in the Tobago East. So, but there's a burning issue that has been coming to the fore as politicians go out talking about their manifestos or their desires or wishes and promises and all of those things that are coming, all the messaging, and that is trying to distinguish between what is a role of an MP and, of course, what is the role of a THA representative. Because while both sit in seats of government, they are different. Their roles are different. What they can deliver to the people are different. And it's important that we understand that going into this election, so that as you out there are trying to decide for yourself, who are those people that you can put your trust in, it's important for you to know exactly what you are voting for, and who best aligns with those roles and responsibilities. And to speak to us a little bit on that this morning is Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt-Angus, who is speaking to us in the capacity as a former presiding officer. And, well, of course, you also know her as the political leader of the IDA. But for now, she is the former presiding officer for this conversation. So good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Angus. How are you?
I am good, thank you. Good morning, Kandace. Good morning to the rest of your viewing and listening audience, wherever they may be.
All right, great. So getting straight on into it, how do you see what do you think are the differences that the public should know about an MP and a THA representative?
Okay. So you have different rules. There's a member of parliament, there's a minister, and there's the Tobago House of Assembly. And in Tobago, the election of your MP is different from an election of your MP in Trinidad. Because in Trinidad, they don't have a House of Assembly that has the authority and responsibilities and the funding that the Tobago House of Assembly has. So when you have people campaigning in Tobago as if they are campaigning in Trinidad, offering people houses, offering people to have better garbage pickup, offering them jobs, that they're fooling you, essentially. Because an MP in Tobago, and why I'm distinguishing it, and I want people to understand, an MP coming out of Tobago should have different responsibilities, because you have the Tobago House of Assembly that is directly responsible for operationalizing the laws and policies, at the level of central government, and even making policies that are unique to Tobago. Under the 5th schedule, we have about 33 different areas of responsibility. And therefore, that has to be protected. So a member of parliament, therefore, their role has to be going in there and ensuring that every law that is made, that Tobago has its uniqueness represented in that law. And I want to give you an example of some of the laws that need to be reviewed. You have the endangered species list. That has to be reviewed, because on that endangered species list, where you have endangered species in Trinidad, in Tobago, they are pests and they are affecting the farmers, the
goatee,
and stuff like that. Even the national bird, I think it's a parakeet.
Parrots and the parakeets. They can be quite destructive.
Correct. Yes. But they are the endangered species in Trinidad. And so we're not hearing anybody speaking to that. And so you expect your Tobago parliamentarian to go down and treat with laws that are affecting us here in Tobago. vote for, they move motions for an amendment of the law with their colleagues there to have the law changed, to have them understand Tobago is a unique space.
Yes.
I remember when the hunting ban was extended to 2 years across the country, not taking into consideration Tobago's uniqueness. It destroyed the farming in Tobago. Okay, so we're moving on from there. Also ensuring that the budget, also when it comes to Parliament, does reflect Tobago's needs. It also ensures that there's oversight for the government. Because so many people sit in the cabinet, there's really little left for oversight at the level of Parliament. We have to bring oversight into the picture. So that is the role you really want to choose an MP for. Forget that they're trying to offer you jobs, because that is the responsibility of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Tell me about what is not the role of an MP. Let's get into the details, because I know a lot of that has been coming up in the way that people are speaking, and even on the campaign trail when you interact with the public and so on.
An MP cannot come and tell you they're building houses in Tobago. They're fixing every house around, unless they're doing it out of their own pockets. An MP cannot come and tell you that they're going to improve the garbage pickup in your areas, because that's really, again, responsibility of the Tobago House of Assembly. An MP cannot come to you and say, we're giving you more jobs, because they do not have that responsibility to do. Now, our candidates have said to people, we are championing a community bill of rights. And that community bill of rights is in the Constitution, would give communities the resources that they need on the ground to create jobs and do projects within their communities. Why that is important is because of the geopolitical shocks that we are going to get. Don't think the ripple out there is not going to reach us. If we don't shore up and strengthen at the ground level, our communities are going to be strangulated, when things get worse.
Yes.
Right.
So, I mean, and let's also get into some of the things that people need to be aware of when they're considering candidates, because you spoke a lot about laws and spoke a lot about the legislation, and of course the legislation that the IDA is focused on. But what should we be looking for, like when we hear the prospective MPs speak, or when they interact? What should we be listening for?
You need to listen for the laws that they will be championing to make sure that there's a better quality of life in Tobago, because laws are made nationally, and oftentimes it does not take the uniqueness of Tobago into consideration. So they must be able to share with you what are some of those laws that they're going to be requesting amendments and reviews on. Take, for instance, the property tax. When they put out the property tax and they said those who are on beachfront property in a different category of the tax bracket. Well, Tobago is beachfront, but not every house on the beachfront is a luxury villa. So you're punishing people for, generations of homes being passed on that really have not even been improved. And so that has to be looked at. The tourism, how tourism grants may be rolled out in Tobago, from there, does not take into consideration that a lot of I think they call them the boutique hotels or even the guest houses, are much smaller in numbers than what occurs in Trinidad. So oftentimes those may not even apply, and they cannot access because they have not taken into consideration economies of scale in Tobago and the numbers that we are working with.
Now, also, let's speak about this ideology coming from some political parties that, you are voting for a government as well. So you're not just voting for a representative in your area, you're voting also for who's going to be prime minister and who's essentially going to lead the country over the next 5 years. And so then based on that argument, yes, the thinking that just having two outlier seats is not really going to make a difference in the way that representation comes to Tobago.
How has that helped us in the last 40, 60 years? Voting for, Tobago leaving its business undone and voting for, a prime minister. That has not assisted us on either side. We have not been able to get what we want from either side, because whenever your representatives, whenever you go down that road, the representatives they don't just go into parliament as your representatives, they now go into a cabinet where their boss is no longer you, their boss is the prime minister. And when their boss becomes the prime minister, they cannot speak out. Even if they find the policies go against Tobago's uniqueness, they cannot come and speak out because their boss is the cabinet. They have to follow the policies. It's only when Robinson and Murray deviated from that one time, and they went into the parliament as independent seats, that they got us the first Tobago House of Assembly Act. After that, Robinson was part of the 33 in cabinet, and nothing seemed to happen after that. So it tells us that Tobago, when we focus on choosing a prime minister, we leave ourselves undone. It is time that let them focus on working out whoever is. They have 39 in Trinidad. We have our 2 in Tobago. Let us use our 2 as a leverage throughout the 5 years. Not leverage to form a government and then you're silenced for the rest of the 5 years. It is at a crucial time and it is something that we need to vote for. And parties need to take off their hats and become Tobago first. How is Tobago going to achieve what we want to achieve at this time? I look at the manifestos and I shook my head because it's more of what we go do for Tobago. Mm-hmm. We have gone past that. We are not a child. You say we walk in side by side. That is not side by side. Put out there what is the percentage you're committing to. Tobago has never got 5%, right? 5.5%, 6%. Tell us what budget you're committing to, at least a minimum, and say that you're willing to work with the Tobago House of Assembly to roll out whatever programs, the Tobago House of Assembly sees in consultation with the people as development for the people. But you're seeing a lot of, we will do this for Tobago, we will do that for Tobago. That has to stop, and the people of Tobago have to understand those things erode the autonomy of the little autonomy you already have. It begins to erode it even further. I was even concerned with the way the prime minister, the new prime minister, came to Tobago, had this meeting with Sandals. Sandals is seated at his right hand, and the chief secretary, where Tobago is supposed to be side by side, the chief secretary is sitting four seats away from the prime minister. We cannot condone that. I don't care who is in the seat, whether we like the person or not. It is the office of the chief secretary and the prime minister. They're supposed to be seated side by side, else let us not sing the anthem.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's also a thinking that, okay, how strong can 2 seats be if they're an outlier and they are not beholden to any of the major political parties? And I put this in the context that there was one candidate over the weekend stating that, the only time that an independent or somebody who's not part of the major parties will be able to speak is perhaps on private members' day, or maybe to contribute once in a while to a debate and so on. How do you respond to that argument?
According to parliamentary rules, whoever catches the eye of the speaker can get up and speak. Yeah, so are you saying that they are not going to practice parliamentary rules in the parliament? Whoever catches the eye of the speaker can get up to speak. And this is why we are saying to our people out there, send our people down as twins, because at least one can raise a motion and one can second it. But what is way more important is that you begin to have a parliament that can work, where you're not just in adversarial, well, use this and use that. No, you will have a parliament now where they have to negotiate with your two seats. Whether the opposition wants to vote against the bill because of whatever, and they will have to bring justifiable reasons, or whether the government would want you to support the bill they're bringing because, of good reasons, and you may see Tobago expressed in the bill, but it's a very good negotiating position for Tobago. And I ask myself, those who are out on the hustings, the type of behavior we have seen and the utterances over this last 3 weeks in this campaign, I ask myself, do people understand that when you get to parliament, you have to sit down and watch some of these same people across the hallway? How are you going to negotiate anything on people's behalf when in their mind, all they're hearing is what you call me on the hustings, and don't expect to come to me to negotiate anything because didn't you know when you were calling me that name? So this is why it is so timely that people need to understand what puts Tobago at the best leverage in getting what Tobago needs and what Tobago wants. Send down the two persons who are to be independent in the parliament, not taking up any ministerial positions, because when they take up ministerial positions, like I said, they become silent. They can't go against what the Prime Minister wants or what the policy of the government, regardless of how Tobago is not represented in it. And secondly, oftentimes they take up positions that begin to get into conflict with the Tobago House of Assembly.
All right. And, when you look at the landscape and just the way that candidates are putting themselves forward, do you think that there's an overall understanding of what they're putting themselves up for?
I believe they clearly don't understand, and that is not a chance that I was willing to take. And so we have had our candidates in training for at least 6 to 9 months, and some of them even up to 3 years. We have been training our candidates consistently in terms of the economy, in terms of crime, and bringing in experts from elsewhere to have conversations with them, understanding. And we opened this out to anybody to attend. We had people from other political parties drop in and drop out, because at the end of the day, an informed and educated electorate is what we need. But more so, candidates who are educated, trained, who understand the fragility of the Tobago economy and also of the country. And so I want to say special thanks to Dr. Vanessa James, who has been working with them in terms of that training program to ensure that they understand the assignment, that when they get down there, they can do what needs to be done. And even those who are being prepared for the assignment in Tobago, we have to move Tobago forward. When your neighbor house on fire, wet your own. The economy in Trinidad has just about collapsed, going from 18,000 GDP per capita in 2015 to now down to 14,300. Tobago also has the economy that has collapsed from about 3,824 to about 3,500 or somewhere along that line. So we have to, we have to have experienced hands, mature hands, persons who understand their roles. And yes, I agree with you. Those who are out there clearly don't understand the roles and what they are getting into going down to Parliament, offering people jobs, for those who are already in the assembly. How can you go and offer people jobs when you're already responsible for jobs in Tobago? You clearly don't understand what the role is.
And what about in terms of just some of the things that you're seeing also on the campaign trail, and just getting a little bit more into the politics and so on? We're seeing some unfortunate incidents coming out to the fore. What is your opinion on this and the fact that, we're seeing it's the supporters that are exhibiting some violent behavior in certain respects?
Well, I think the party also has to be held accountable for their supporters. There has to be some decorum and decency that prevails. And so when you have leaders calling each other names on platforms, yeah, you can see where supporters will now take that and unfold it to a different level. So if you don't have decency and decorum from the head, then it rolls out anyhow, anywhere, to be played out by their supporters. So it is very unfortunate, and I certainly hope that the candidate who was the victim will get better soon. But at the end of the day, they probably need to look at what are their other options, because certainly it was serious. It was serious. I mean, for you to end up in hospital, that is serious business. Perhaps the one thing that you can say to the perpetrator is that they did admit, but that's not enough. And if we don't send a message and a lesson now, then where are we going to get to? Is it that during elections, and I know that Jamaica dealt with this at some point,
Yes,
where
and even Guyana,
you couldn't even wear a colored jersey because you will be attacked, because people just assume you are of that. No matter that is maybe what your favorite color is, regardless of what your political choices may be. And we can't afford to get to that. We can't afford to get to that.
So perhaps it's a time for people to sort of check themselves and we understand that, what, we are still in a democracy and we still need to respect each other's views and, allow people to be different, allow people to have different opinions and even different political ideologies.
Correct.
It's not wrong.
But I still go back to, if your leaders are not leading by example, those are the type of followers and their expressions that they will get. So the leaders also need to check themselves on both sides. Both sides. Yes? Okay.
All right. Well, viewers, that's how we're going to have to end our conversation this morning. I want to thank so much to say thank you to Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt-Angus for being on with us and for giving us a perspective. And I hope that, after this conversation, you really think hard as you consider the candidates that are before you as to who can best represent you in the Tobago East or Tobago West constituency in Parliament. Because again, the roles of an MP are very different from the roles of a THA representative, and you can't be expecting your MP to be fixing your road and those things are the responsibility of the THA. However, just consider what's being put out on the table there before you make a decision on April 28th. All right, viewers, so we're going to go for a break, but we'll be right back after this.